This is a lack of political will.
This is the lack of political will. I think that's the only way.
It just comes down to that.
Yes, if it just comes down to political
Yeah.
will, then how do we change the political will?
I mean, that's
without a functioning democracy, because
Yeah.
otherwise there's no pressure.
when then you don't change it, then nothing happens. I mean, it's as simple as
Which
that.
is what basically is happening
Which
right
is
now.
what
Nothing is
basically
happening.
what's
We're
happening.
just
Yes.
we're
it's a stalemate, right? It's a
Yeah.
stalemate. Then nothing happens.
What is the point of having any discussion if there is no way out of the stalemate?
There is no point. I'm here only because Niha asked me to.
I am going to keep this because Ammar, you keep insisting that budget doesn't matter. Would you care to explain why?
So, see, if there would be any change in it, if it had anything innovative in it, it would matter. But if you are regurgitating the same thing that has been done in the last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and expecting a different result, then it doesn't matter.
Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Money. I'm your host Fatima Attarwala, and with me today is Ammar Habib Khan, who will also be joining me as my co-host. The format today is a little bit different. We have the budget coming up, and instead of just having a discussion on how the budget is going to happen and what is going to happen, how is it going to go, we are going to be answering questions sent by a vast variety of people. The first asking us questions would be our editor, Niha Dagia. Hi Niha, welcome to the show.
Hi Fatima, hi Ammar. So my first question to you guys is, what is a good budget? And when was the last time we had one? Who wants to take it?
Ammar will take it.
What is a good budget? It's like saying what is good food.
But with good food, we have an answer. With a good budget, it's a lot
No,
trickier.
see, I mean, when you have a household budget, okay, you live in a house, you make a budget. A good budget is one where you have a surplus, where you have some savings, which you can use to maybe buy a bigger house, buy more appliances, or I don't know, do something else. But when you have a budget in which you have to keep borrowing from your relatives or from your family or from your neighbors or from the neighbor who's been giving you money for the last 20 years and doesn't want to give you anymore, and then you say, okay, I'm going to set fire to your place, give me money. So is that a good budget? No, it's not a good budget. So I think the contextually, in the case of a sovereign, good budget would be one where you maintain some kind of a little bit of fiscal surplus, some kind of a fiscal deficit, a little bit of fiscal deficit, some discipline in terms of how the fiscal management is actually done without constricting growth in the process. In our case, we've just constricted or restricted growth in a way that there's literally no way to grow out of our conundrum right now because we just don't know what else to do at this point.
So basically a budget that doesn't burden the middle income group any further, which is what's going to happen in the next budget.
No, the middle income group has been burdened to an
Or the corporate sector.
Everyone essentially has been burdened to an extent that you don't really have much room available to burden them anymore, whether that's middle income, whether it's high income.
It's the entire formal economy, but then we still have that informal economy, right?
So that's the thing, informal economy, I mean, what are you comparing the informal economy with? What's your benchmark there? If the globe is your benchmark or region is your benchmark, the informal economy is doing horrible compared to that. Because to grow up, to scale up, you need to eventually transition into a formal economy. If you're saying informal economy has always been our savior, it's like saying, you know, okay,
I'm not saying the informal economy has been the same. I'm saying that if the entire informal economy was paying the taxes the way the formal economy is, everybody's taxes will be lower.
Yes, that is correct. But how do you even do that?
How do we do that? If you had a good budget, would the answer be there? A hypothetical utopia type good budget.
There is no utopia. Again, there are 190 countries in the world, maybe around 100 of them have cracked this code. It's not really that difficult. Countries who are at a much earlier stage of development than us have cracked this code. And
what is that code? How do we crack that code?
That code is essentially have a broad-based taxation regime. It's as simple as that.
Which is bring the informal economy within the formal. That's a broader tax base,
Yes,
isn't it?
that's
Not?
correct.
So that is what a good budget would find a way to do that. Would you argue that?
I fully agree.
Great.
So my next question is, when was the last time we had a good budget?
Never.
Never.
Never?
No, I never. I cannot recall in recent memory, maybe before I was born, it was there, but in recent memory, at least in the last 15 years, 20 years, I do not recall any budget that you can call a good budget because we've never had a fiscal surplus. We never really made a budget for growth. We just made a budget for consumption-oriented growth. We never really made a budget for, let's say, sustainable growth.
So my next question is that the government has been saying that the economy is stabilizing, and this is also going to be a stabilization budget. Inflation, they say, has come down, and some macroeconomic indicators are looking good. So then, why do businesses and households, why are they still feeling the pressure?
So what does stabilization even mean? You've been stabilized for the last 3 years at this point. You can continue stabilizing for the next 3 years. But the moment there is an external shock, everything just shakes up in the process. So are you really that stable if just a little bit of shock here and there can just shake your foundation? So no, you're not stable. And we have not changed the structural positioning of the economy. We were a consumption-oriented economy 3 years, 4 years back. And we are a more consumption-oriented economy right now. 4 years back, consumption as a percent of GDP was maybe around 95%. It is 101% right now. So structurally, we're actually in a much worse position.
So I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Once we are out of the IMF program, which we will be next year, are we going immediately back, or are we going to go down the boom bust cycle?
No, as I said, we haven't moved away from the consumption-oriented orientation of the GDP. We're out of the IMF program. We will do more consumption. We will do more import-oriented consumption.
And
we will have another deficit, and we'll go back to the IMF again because we just refuse to learn.
With the boom bust program, the boom bust cycle, we are always in. We haven't had a boom in quite some time
so
now.
It's a bust cycle now because,
so now it's a bust
you
cycle,
cannot have a boom anymore because the space for a boom doesn't exist. So you have a bust and more bust cycle.
So let's say this is what end of FY26. Now we are sitting at the end of FY27. For somehow the war has ended. Somehow oil prices have come down. Do you think there would be some room for growth then?
Again, how do we attain growth? See, that's the fundamental question. A sustainable growth trajectory would look like with your investment to GDP ratio, which has been stuck at 13% for like 50 years, 60 years at this point, needs to go from 13% to 29 to 30%, and your consumption to GDP needs to go down. So you need to invest more in the economy. But do you see anyone investing more in the economy? Are there any policies that say, okay, you need to consume less and invest more in the economy? No, nothing of that sort is happening. Again, considering how the effective tax rates are in the formal economy, you've got effective tax rates in the range of 50% plus right now. So at a 50% plus effective tax rate, why will anyone invest in the economy? So there you have the chicken and egg problem. If you want to invest, you need to reduce direct taxation. But when you reduce direct taxation, you need to cover that deficit from somewhere. And that means coming back to your earlier point, broadening either the tax space or reducing your expenditures.
So once we are out of the IMF program and we have the room for growth, can we bring down the corporate tax rates so that some investment comes in?
No, again, what is the purpose? See, I think important here is what's the objective. Investment or exports don't come in like you just reduce a tax rate and suddenly 2 days later something comes in. It needs to be a long, clear policy narrative. That policy narrative, that vision is simply not there.
So we do not have that policy narrative because we do not have political continuity. Do you think that the current regime is strong enough that we can finally have that political narrative?
I will disagree. There has been continuity at a political economy level. There has been continuity. But inability to...
we don't really do democratic transfers well.
What even is democracy in the first place? I mean, what is democracy? Do you find any democracy in all of Asia?
So Modi government is not democracy?
I don't know. I'm not. Okay, let's exclude India. I mean, do you
all
find
of
anywhere?
Asia and you exclude?
No, okay. No. I mean, this is a separate war. China
let's not go to
well, not
China
a democracy.
has done
Japan controlled by essentially a few families from the Second World War. Taiwan, the same people. South Korea, the Chaebol. I mean, you look at every East Asian country, you see some kind of a multi-party rule that has been there. Is that really true democracy? We don't really know. So again, that's we're going really meta here. What really is democracy in the first place?
Okay, if we do not go for hypothetical explanations of terms that are generally accepted and we do not delve into that, and we come back to Pakistan and political community, don't most businesses say that we do not know that for the next 3 years even will this tax rate remain the same, or will additional taxes be ad hoc added, which has been the experience in Pakistan?
Fully agreed there, because there is no predictability.
Exactly. So you need policy continuity for predictability. So
but that has nothing to do with political continuity. because the people are there. The continuity of people
But
is
there's
there.
also a lot of rent-seeking behavior because of which parties change.
And the businesses are the biggest rent seekers.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one would argue that rent-seeking behavior has been embedded in the DNA in our culture. In fact, we just had a podcast in which we had a guest explaining how since the British Raj left, the rent-seeking behavior has been part of our culture.
Yeah, that
although
has
he
been
didn't
part
call
of
it
the
rent-seeking
culture.
behavior.
It is rent-seeking. Everything is rent-seeking here at this point. And to get out of that mindset.
Within that rent-seeking behavior, can there be growth?
Yes, I'll give you one example, and that's called pizza. Do you see pizza shops around you? Too many pizza shops. Everyone's selling pizza. You can get a pie for 300 rupees and you can get a pie for 4,000 rupees. And no one out there said, let me fix the price of pizza there. No one said that. Pizza shops continue to grow and evolve, and pizza is one of the most popular items on on food delivery apps. How did that work? It's just the free market operating. Let the market operate. Let the losers just go out. Let the winners just figure it out. And even in this environment, you see a lot of businesses actually operating very well.
But those pizza shops that you're the 300 rupees pizza, how much tax are they paying versus the established chains who are paying much higher taxes?
Again, all of them are paying taxes at this point. So
the indirect taxes, yes, the direct taxes.
The smaller ones won't be paying, but the larger ones, they
See,
won't
the
be
smaller
paying.
ones, that is
So
the informal economy.
Again, my point there was,
if all the smaller ones would pay their taxes, then the larger ones would have to pay less taxes.
No, I think,
everybody would have to
I
pay
think,
less
see,
taxes.
The problem with that argument,
that is the informal economy.
No. So the problem with that argument is, we're saying that because X is not paying tax, then Y is paying
More
higher
tax,
taxes.
yes.
And that is fair. But the volumes at the lower end are so low that administrative costs may just exceed the revenues
So
that
you're
you may
saying
generate.
the entire informal economy, which is made of SMEs and medium enterprises,
I'm not saying entire.
taxing
See,
them.
I was having the discussion earlier. What is even SME? Everyone's saying SME.
Oh
SME.
my God, we are not discussing what SME is
No,
anymore.
I'm just saying I have to do this. What's happened is over the years, any SME ecosystem.
I don't understand.
Any SME ecosystem.
See, even your iPad doesn't understand what you're saying.
Any SME ecosystem in the world is developed on the basis of large scale manufacturers, because you need a full vendor supply chain. Because you did not have any significant large scale investments over the last 2 decades, you do not even have a thriving SME sector. So all you have right now are trading entities, and that's about it. A trading entity here, a trading entity there. Again, just more consumption. So is the SME sector our pathway to growth? No, because it's just more consumption. So you need more scalable investment, you need more scalable output before you can even have a thriving SME segment.
100% agree, but how do we do that? What do we do in the budget for that, in successive budgets, even for that to happen?
So, I mean, I'll give you an example here. So,
I'm just going to add on to the same question. Like, beyond tax collection, what else can you do that, where else can you expect growth from?
So let's just look at it this way. You've got a budget and you keep running deficits. Why do you keep running deficits? Why you run deficits when your expenditure is greater than your revenue? So what happens? Let's say I've got X rupees in salary, Y percentage of that goes out, and let's say my direct tax is 1,000 rupees. From the 1,000 rupees, 575 rupees go to the provinces. No questions asked. The provinces spend it on whatever they want. You look at the provincial budgets, you see half of the budget just goes to developing roads, and that is for all provinces. Is that a good use of my 1,000 rupees? Maybe not. So, when 575 goes out, whatever is remaining, let's say 425, that needs to take care of pretty much everything else. And since every year you have to give 57.5% to provinces, and that amount cannot be lower than last year because of the constitution, you need to increase your taxes. So how do you increase taxes? You either increase it on the salaried class or you increase it on the corporate sector. The usual. So you keep increasing it because you need to serve expenditure of provinces. See, we've got an expenditure problem as well. It's not really a revenue problem.
But then how do we fix it?
How do we fix it? You fix the NFC. But if you talk about the NFC, a couple of people might just have collapsed outside this room. We just talk about NFC right now. We go, oh God damn, it's just written in the Constitution. It's not the 10 Commandments. It's just the Constitution.
How can we make the NFC more effective then, since the NFC cannot be changed?
Why can it not be? It's not the 10 commandments. Didn't came from
Assuming-
on Mount
so
Sinai.
within the reality that we have.
So see, that is the thing. Do you?
The whole idea of
no, in this
NFC
structure,
was-
in this structure, even the provinces are not growing.
No, they are not. They have to give a surplus back to the federal.
So no one's growing. You're stuck in a stalemate right now.
How can we empower, or what can happen for the provinces to be more efficient in gathering taxes, so that they have a bigger surplus to give to the...
Provinces-
Like, what's a credible long-term solution for
Credible
this? Because this is
long-term
like-
solution is very simple. You reduce corporate tax rate and salary tax rate, whatever, to like 20% or whatever. It needs to be a super simple structure. The current structure is super duper complex. Even better, you target over a 5-year period that this needs to be the fiscal deficit on a trailing basis, 27, 28, 29, 30. Once we hit that fiscal deficit, then the transfers will happen. So you're not transferring before the hitting the deficit, you're transferring after adjusting for that. So proportionate transfers happen to the provinces, and the provinces, if they want to ensure better service delivery to whoever lives in the provinces, increase their own taxes. Because what's happening right now, if you keep increasing the corporate tax rate, if you keep increasing the salary tax rate, no investment will happen, no jobs will be generated, and the provinces will suffer as well. So you're in a stalemate right now where all that is happening is the provinces just throwing money at the problem and hoping it gets solved when it doesn't get solved. So you have a lot of public investment happening, a lot of public consumption happening, and have completely crowded out private sector investment in both provinces and at the federal level.
Is a lot of public investment happening?
This province, you have to look at the provincial budget, 3 trillion rupee with just provincial expenditure.
Across all provinces?
Across all provinces. You just
So
have
what
to
are
look at
they
it.
doing? Making roads?
Making roads, just making tons and tons
Where are
of
the
roads.
roads in Karachi?
They're not in Karachi. Again, Karachi is like, I think it's one of those cases where there's nothing. And but if you look at the budgetary numbers, the roads are being made. Whether they're being made or not, that's a separate topic altogether. Maybe they're not being made. Maybe that
they're
money
being
is being
made on
siphoned off
paper.
somewhere else. That is for someone else to figure out. But again, do you need enough roads? Is road a way to get more growth? So if you just analyze, if you analyze the provincial budgets over the last 5 years, I've done that for Punjab, I've done that for Sindh, 40 to 45% of the budget just goes towards making roads to, I don't know, nowhere at this point.
But one would argue, okay, theek hai, just make roads. Just make roads. Roads provide
Connectivity,
employment.
yeah.
Roads provide connectivity. With roads, people in those remote areas could find jobs and more. So if those roads were being made, shouldn't we see some economic dividends for it?
Yes,
because
you-
I don't see those.
Like which
either.
we do
you are
see
seeing
in some
economic dividends,
provinces,
you
but
just
not
see
in all.
more and more trading
I'm
activity.
sorry, what were you saying?
And so, which we do see in some provinces, but not in all. Like in Punjab, we do see the connectivity
Punjab,
for
we
the roads,
see, yeah.
but we in Sindh, perhaps
See,
not.
that's the thing. Is that getting you any sustainable growth? You need to produce more. You need to produce more
If not
output.
roads, then what?
Huh?
Where you are a provincial minister who has
Yeah.
that power. Where would you dedicate your resources to?
I don't know, public-private partnerships to produce anything and everything.
Such as?
Such as whatever agriculture you're producing, start processing it. Why can't you process your mangoes and just send, like, I don't know, canned mangoes? Why can't you have cold storages across the country?
Why don't we, Vasev?
Yeah.
Given we have we just had another guest saying $1 billion worth of produce is wasted. Why don't we have cold
More than
storage?
that is wasted because we just don't, because no one really cares.
So we care about roads, we don't care about cold storage.
Because it's easier to make roads and siphon money through roads. Cold storage is difficult business. The road is like, you can have like 5 people and they can start making a road. The moment you start doing something more technical, you just need a slightly more gray matter to use.
So is the whole thing coming down to something as so simple that if it's difficult, the government won't do it, even if they know that this is the way forward?
No, so that is the thing, right? You can deliver a road. I mean, road is an example at this point. You can deliver a road or something very short term in like 6 months. But for a cold storage or any processing facility or anything to happen, it will take about 2 years to make that, another 1 year to operationalize it. You take market risk. You're like, why do I even bother with this?
Because that
And
also
because
brings
the
back to
government-
your point, which is the political stability.
So
because
again,
we have
the
no
government
political
shouldn't
stability.
be in this
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
in the first place. You
Oh,
need
the
to.
finance minister has been saying that in every speech. The government has no business in being business.
Yeah.
That has not really changed. has
And
it?
that hasn't changed because we want the government to be in every business.
You just put forward the idea of public-private partnership. That is the government
Public-private
business.
partnerships, ironically, has been most successful.
It has been, yes.
Has been the most successful in
Which
Sindh.
is why maybe government not having any stake might not be the best way forward.
Again, see, that is the thing. We just like, this is the micro level. You know how to execute projects. At a macro level, the equation is simple. Consumption plus investment plus government plus exports minus import, this is your GDP. You 100% of your GDP is consumption, you need to increase investments. You need to do anything and everything to increase those investments. That's simply it. I mean, you solve that, the I in the equation, you solve everything else.
But then again, if we come back to your pizza and the fact that there was no government and we have a lot of pizzas, shouldn't we start at the micro level so that the micro can result in the macro rather than the macro result in the micro?
That is the thing. That's a very nice way to look at things.
Oh, good.
But
you said nice and not cute, which is what
I thought about cute, but I was being more conscious about it. Oh, I was also trying to say naive, but I didn't say that. So, again, if you need a petrochemical factory, if you need a petrochemical unit, that's $1 billion. You need to start from above. You cannot start from micro. If you need an aluminum smelter, that's another $1 billion. You need a copper smelter.
Nobody is giving us $1 billion.
You have $1 billion.
We do have $1 billion.
You have
they
more
go for
than
debt
that.
servicing.
See, that's the
they
thing.
They go for loans. They go for consumption.
No. That is the thing. It's private capital that needs to mobilize. I mean, I did a piece on EVs, and EVs is like $2.5 billion worth of money that just was mobilized purely by the private sector for literally slaughtering animals. If a country can mobilize 2.5 billion rupees to slaughter animals, it can easily mobilize a lot more.
But then again, we are talking about many small players, many small pizzas,
that is why
not one.
That is why you need the necessary infrastructure and policy framework in place. I mean, the world is out there. There are examples of countries out there who are successfully industrialized. With much worse circumstances, Korea and Japan being a classic example.
So policy, infrastructure and the implementation of it again requires
brain
continuity.
matter. Brain matter. Grey matter.
So why do we not have that? I mean, if it's that simple.
No, it is that. Again, because this has been done everywhere. See, it's not something that you're doing it for the first time. Koreans did it in the 60s. Japanese in the 30s. China in the 90s.
So would you say this is a lack of political will?
This is the lack of political will. I think that's the only way.
It just comes down to that.
Yes, if it just comes down to political will, then how do we change the political will?
I mean, that's
without a functioning democracy, because otherwise there's no pressure.
Then you don't change it, then nothing happens. I mean, it's as simple as
Which
that.
is what basically is happening right now.
Nothing
is happening.
It's a stalemate, right? It's a stalemate. Then nothing happens.
What is the point of having any discussion if there is no way out of the stalemate?
There is no point. I'm here only because Niha asked me to.
I am going to keep this because, Ammar, you keep insisting that budget doesn't matter. Would you care to explain why?
So, see, if there would be any change in it, if it had anything innovative in it, it would matter. But if you are regurgitating the same thing that has been done in the last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and expecting a different result, then it doesn't matter. Honestly, what new intervention or policy tool has been used by this government or the previous one or the one before that wasn't done earlier and like, oh, wow, this is amazing and this is going to like change lives or whatever. No. And the tools are there. The things that can be done are there. The lack of imagination is the problem.
So, again, you are the finance minister or the provincial finance minister for any province. What would you change?
What would I change? Okay, first of all, if you've got a super tax right now, I'm going to convert it into something that I call an investment in lieu of taxation. So what's happening? You've got a corporate tax of 29%. If you're a big enough company, you pay another 10% in super tax. And that goes to the government. Essentially, what's happening is you take capital from private sector, give it to public sector, and then just burn it, essentially. What I can say is, okay, you know what? You've got capital here. How about you reinvest it in the economy? If you reinvest it in the economy, I won't take this money away. Fair deal?
Fair deal.
I mean, either private sector investment would be more efficient than public sector. You say, okay, you know, over the next 1 year, let's say you've got 20 billion rupees in super tax. How about you invest in like increasing your production capacity? do anything like increase your production capacity, expand your facility, expand your exports, do something productive, generate jobs, so on and so forth. And suddenly you will see a lot of that 200 billion rupees of super tax being reinvested in the economy because the market responds to incentives. But if you say, okay, you know what, you have to give super tax today and you have to give super tax tomorrow and for the next 3 years as well, you're like, screw it, I don't really care at this point. So again, you have to give a signal to people to invest. The capital is out there. There are tons and tons of capital out there. And of course, when you invest, I do not mean invest in real estate. This thing should not include buildings and land. They should only include products, output that can actually be exported. So, how do you do that? You push people to do it, and people will do it. Companies, people, everyone, they just respond to incentives. You've got to give them the right incentives. So, that is literally the first thing that you can do.
So 100% lower taxes, get the domestic
And I've
investors
literally given a solution. You're just saying in lieu of taxes, just invest.
and you would get in foreign investment as well. Now we have SEZs who were supposed to do
I have
something like that.
one question to ask you though, because Fatima, you've covered a lot of budgets, and we both know why we have to, cover budgets. Tell me about something. Usually, the biggest headline is what the speech gets the biggest headline. But where do you think the real story usually is?
The real story is always on the outskirts, like, okay, what's going to happen to mobile phones? What's going to happen to hygiene products? The little things that affect our life. Like, someday I want to do an infographic and there's a guy, let's say the guy's name is Ammar, like a doodle, and he buys credit for his mobile. How much more is he paying now? Then he walks somewhere, he buys a water bottle. How much more tax is he paying? So I would like to see how in that budget the everyday life is getting tweaked. So, example, I think that in the upcoming budget, and I think the government has been pretty upfront that maybe the income tax is going to, the personal tax, income tax, salary tax, maybe corporate tax, they are going to come down a little, but indirect taxes are going to increase. So, how will that affect our real income? Like at the end of the day, at the end of the year, will I be able to take my family for a vacation to Donga Gali? Will I have that money left? Because right now we don't, it's just too expensive.
We were just having this discussion with my associate producers, and they were asking me, how does the budget affect us? And I was like, your coffee, whether in the next year you'll be having your your matcha lattes and your iced lattes every day, that is where the budget comes into focus for you, and also your mobile phones.
I mean, we are an import oriented, consumption oriented economy. Indirect taxes affects everything. So yeah, and then you have the finance bill, you have tariffs, you have a whole bunch of things. Whether you can buy an imported used car, whether you're going to go for an EV, all of that is decided by the incentives given, or in this case, not given, as Ammar pointed out. The taxes are just too high for us to be able to afford most things.
100%. We will go back to your question.
I was going to argue about SEZs and why they were not successful, even though there were tax breaks.
Because SEZs became a land game. They became a land game. Any other part of the world, if you have land allocated to you and you do not set up a facility in a year or 2 years' time, the land is taken away. It doesn't happen here. So it just, everything becomes a land game here. And when you cannot think beyond land because you lack the ability to think, then this is exactly what happens.
So land has very much always been a store of value, a store of wealth for Pakistan. It's where all the money goes, it's where all the black money goes. So how do we change that? How do we disincentivize
I think
land?
The more important thing here is because of lack of literacy in the country, because of lack of education, we are not able to do basic math. And because we're not able to do basic...
Lack of literacy at the policy level?
Certainly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not going to be ashamed about it. Because of lack of literacy, because of lack of literacy, because of understanding how capital moves, how capital operates, how capital transitions one place to another, people just still think land is a great store of value, when in real terms it's not. There's a lot of...
Are we talking about the average person, like who is, say, a multi-millionaire, maybe not very rich, medium wealthy, or are we talking about the policymakers?
Everyone at this point. See, that is the thing. What is the... Again, when I say literacy, it's all relative. So at a policy level, are you competent enough to understand these nuances? That's literacy there.
I mean, you sit with these people every day. This is what you think of them?
A lot of them, yes. Loaded question, but yeah.
Okay, I think we can
So
take
I
it.
have a couple of questions from people that I asked. I think the stabilization we've done, but what are 3 things that the government should not do in this budget?
Well, one thing, stop taxing us so much would be, as Ammar pointed out, there's no reason to invest in a country that's going to tax you to death. But yeah, something more.
I mean, don't
elaborate
increase
from you.
taxes, don't increase expenditures.
Can we talk about austerity measures and what real austerity measures are? No, I'm going to make a point over here. I have done a training for SVP, which I have not gotten paid for because austerity measures. There are other people who have not gotten paid for the work that they did even before the war because austerity measures. So can we talk about what austerity measures really are rather than not paying the people who did the work for you?
I think austerity is an excuse. It's a lazy excuse.
Can we not decrease the number of departments?
No,
and
no.
ministries
See, it's simple.
for
It's simple.
starters?
When the austerity measures came, it's pretty simple. You look at the budget book and see how much fuel does everyone consume. Like fuel cut kar denge. I mean, you'll know we'll do this less, falana demaka, everything, and then you see the impact is barely negligible. It's not even a rounding error in the larger scheme of things. So it's just an excuse. It's a lazy excuse and nothing else.
Where can, if the government was truly concerned about bringing down its expenses, we keep talking about revenue. If the government wanted to bring down its expenses, where would it start?
Where would it start? It should start with the province and their development budgets.
So,
And because see what happens, you do a project, you suddenly create more public sector employment that just stays there forever. It's an overhang that just stays there forever.
so how about increasing the efficiency of those projects rather than removing the projects? Can that not be doable?
I mean, if a project,
Because we do need that employment, right?
No, you don't need public sector employment. That's the thing. Why
But
do
we
you?
do not have
why
enough
do you?
employment
No,
in the first place.
because you thought that you can do everything, and then you started doing everything, and then realized you cannot do everything, and you create bad jobs in the process where you make the other person inefficient as well.
So how do we make jobs that are not bad
Let
jobs?
the private sector figure it out. Why does
You just put forward the example of PPP in Sindh, which I agree is
PPP
successful.
is different. PPP is different.
So,
Public
different
sector,
policies
all
for
see.
different
You can have
political
like
parties?
2 to 3 or maybe 10 great PPP projects, okay? But the rest of our 990 projects, they are public sector, okay? So do you even need those projects? Yeah, if you just look at PSDP and the number of projects in it, there is a throwover, it's something called or like rollover, something where about 10 trillion rupee worth of balance that needs to be covered in those projects. There are many projects that were started like 5 years, 7 years back, and they just still exist on paper, and they still get some token allocation.
For agriculture, I'm sure there are at least a decade-old projects that are just lining the canal and whatnot
do you even need those? First of all, you need to just cull them all, not at a federal level, but at a provincial level as well, because a project may have made sense in, let's say, 2026. The same project will not make sense in 2030 or 2035. So the way we do public sector investments, that needs a complete revamp. It's I mean, we're still insane. You look at the budgets of Balochistan, it's a mess on its own. I mean, just as said, how many roads have been made, how many X billion rupees, hundreds of billion rupees have been earmarked or allocated to roads. How many of those roads even exist? Are we making the same roads again and again? These are the questions that you need to ask in a democratic society.
So we need to increase the efficiency of those projects and curtail, say, the corruption of it?
Yes, efficiency is critical, but how do you do that? Who bells the cat?
Exactly.
And you can do that by reducing allocation. So then when you are constrained, you are pushed to make better decisions.
Would you be pushed to make better decisions, or we continue to support the red signal?
So see, that's the thing, right? It's service delivery. You have to serve.
Like we need a set of incentives that delivers only when certain objectives are, which we do not have right now. We have no political will.
And that's one of the things that an NFC reform should target, is essentially 100 universal literacy. If your literacy rate is not improving, then there needs to be a penalty somehow. Why shouldn't there be?
Why shouldn't there be? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's a constitutional right that NFC allocation should increase every year, education is also a universal education is a right in the constitution. So each province should be responsible to ensure universal literacy in like 5 years. If not, you get a penalty.
And not with a bigger budget, because we have had this discussion many times that it's not a resource problem.
It's not a resource
efficiency
problem. Again, it's we've done this education in tons of times.
Done
We
it.
spend tremendous amount on education. It's a pure efficiency problem. So you cannot solve it by throwing more money at the
TCS
problem.
can educate a
TCS
child
was
for
a great
5,000,
example.
15,000 for the government.
So we have like some quick questions. Number one, what's the biggest uncertainty about the budget?
Where will the tax rates be?
Okay. What do you think is going to be the most game-changing intervention in the budget, if there's going to be any?
Reduction of tax rates.
What do you expect that to happen?
No.
Okay. Who will bear the biggest burden?
The people of the country.
Sad. Okay. Is there any policy for any incentives for people, to bring back their money from abroad?
There are no incentives, but what we're trying to do is create another real estate bubble, which has failed multiple times, and we continue to do the exact same thing without learning any lessons.
Okay.
Do you think construction will get incentives in this budget more than last time?
Yes, they will get it,
Yeah.
and we're going to
Because I
import.
seem to see a lot more activity on the construction
You
side.
will see a lot
The
more imports
advertisements
happening.
and the lobbying.
And it will collapse in the next 18 months.
So my last question before we are joined by Hiba, our Gen Z AP, who will ask questions that the youth wants to know. When today's 20-year-olds are in like their 40s, what economic trend do you think will define their generation? Technology, climate change, migration, or something else?
Technology, and if things go the way they are, we will be in a much worse position because we'll be stuck in a low growth trap for another 20 years.
So what should Pakistanis be investing in at this moment in time?
Pakistani should be investing in at this moment. That's a tricky one. Honestly, investment advice is not something that we should be giving on TV. But you need to be investing for the long term. If you are a 20-something, you need to be investing for the next 30, 40 years. And for that, you should be looking at the equity markets, but with a very clear long-term horizon. And do not look at real estate ever.
And if I may add to that, if anybody is telling you that you invest now and I'll give you a 50% return over the next month, don't.
Don't.
It's a scam.
It's a scam.
Yeah. And so do you think we should be moving towards solar panels and electric cars, or?
We've already moved to solar panels, and about, I would say, 60% of our electricity during the day is now generated through solar panels. And I think this will be 80% over the next few years. We will have a lot more batteries in the system as well over the next 4 to 5 years. So we're moving from a centralized grid to a decentralized grid. And we will see a lot of electric cars and plug-in hybrid cars and electric bikes as well over the next 5 years. So the way we generate electricity and the way we move around in transportation will just completely change over the next 5 years.
And if I may add to that, given that we have a very inefficient grid, the more people who move to solar, the better, because the grid is going to get worse and worse for everybody. So anybody who can afford solar should, and anybody who can afford battery should go for it.
Yeah.
They are already going for it. The market incentive, it's an incentive thing.
Especially since batteries are getting cheaper now, so
Much
just makes
cheaper
more
going
sense.
forward,
Yeah.
And so how big of a consideration was the Middle East crisis when you were drafting the budget this year?
Middle East crisis, I mean, what does the Middle East crisis set? It sets the baseline oil price for the next year's budget. Like last year, the baseline price was maybe around $65. This time around, I think it would be $80, $85. So that is it. Essentially, we are still fairly dependent on oil as a commodity, largely for transportation and not for power generation. And one of our larger imports is essentially oil as well, because of which it determines how our budget trajectory looks like.
Having said that, right now there might be a lot of incentives for EVs, but I think in the longer run, the more and more people convert to EVs, the less the government would like EVs, because petroleum levy is such a huge source of tax revenue for them.
Yeah. And so what's the link between the budget and purchasing power, considering this new budget?
So if essentially if the tax rates increase, if indirect taxes increase, your purchasing power actually goes down. So let's say if the indirect taxes increase, whether it's through the sales tax or through another form of tax, if you can get, let's say, something for 100 rupees, the same may cost you 120 rupees going forward, and that is how your purchasing power is actually declining.
And so what's your biggest piece of financial advice for the average Pakistani at this point?
Average Pakistani at this point. I think this is a very, very broad-based question, because a lot of these things depend on what stage of life you're in. I mean, if you're a student, if you're in your 20s, you got to invest in yourself. That's more important. Investment, I mean, learning actually, rather than like buying random stuff. And if you're in your, let's say, 40s, saving for your retirement, how do you need to structure your portfolio, so on and so forth, that's important. So this totally depends on what stage of life you are in right now, but things are not going to get better.
Yeah.
if I were to answer that slightly differently, take out money before you spend it, whatever source you have a diversified portfolio, have some in regular savings that you can dip into in case of emergencies, invest in mutual funds, if not the stock market, invest in learning IT skills, use AI skills so that you can upskill and sell yourself. So have a diversified portfolio, but keep some money that you can upskill yourself, regardless of your age. So this was an interesting episode, a very rousing discussion with somebody who I have a lot of differences of opinion with. If you have questions that we could answer, no, we do have differences of opinion. If you have questions that we could answer, please go to the DawnNews English Instagram page and send us these questions. We can answer them on Instagram over the next few days or on the day of budget coverage itself. Thank you so much for watching.